I was living in Canterbury then. I mean, I live in Whitstable now, but I was living in Canterbury, and I developed a rash. Not everybody with Lyme disease gets this rash. About something like 50% of people with the infection do. And I went to the hospital with it because it was spreading and it was unusual. They diagnosed cellulitis from an insect bite. So I, thought I'd recover quickly. And I did temporarily, but within a few weeks of the rash going down, I started to develop all sorts of other symptoms. They were never sort of connected by doctors. The dots weren't joined up, so I developed flu-like symptoms. I lost a lot of weight. There were actually personality changes too, really unusual things. And doctors never quite joined them up. Suggestions were made about various things it could be, but it never was them. And then really my health declined over the next 9-12 months. And I moved to Whitstable coincidentally, which is unfortunate because of the stress involved. But my health really declined so badly that I thought it was the full stop, it was the end. But it turns out that you can recover in time, and you can almost find a new normal. You can, get your health back enough to get on with your life. The book substantially deals with the human story, the emotions, the psychology, the effects of illness, the mystery surrounding it, but also the frustration of discovering yourself through research, that you face almost an obstruction, like a brick wall, and the element of denial to it. Lyme disease is very complex and also very controversial, which the book shows and discusses and explores too. But for me, fighting the illness was very, very tough indeed. I mean, psychologically and emotionally devastating. But at the same time, to face a brick wall instead of actually being helped was, it doubled the effect really. So I was flat out and emotionally sort of wrecked. But my wife kind of helped sort of fight my corner, as it were, because I was too weak at that time. And we managed to receive treatment but testing is very, very difficult I understand the medical profession are slightly confused about the condition. In the process of the differentials that they make regarding a diagnosis, you start with the most common. So I was misdiagnosed with stroke, multiple sclerosis, possible brain tumour. The effects were that severe from Lyme disease, but it was the last thing on the list, and it wasn't really considered or taken that seriously at the time. But eventually it was. At the time of the infection, I was sort of riding high as a writer with a debut novel and, doing amazing things, interviewing people like Kazuo Ishiguro, and I was enjoying my life. The recovery was gradual, but positive. I'm probably 70-80% recovered, but most people who have Lyme disease that's not treated early enough don't come out the other end unscathed. So I have some damage. Damage was caused because of the delay in treatment, but the treatment did work. Writing the book. See, my job is, of course, as a writer. That was my living. That was my passion, and it still is. And I never thought I'd be able to write again. During the worst stages, I couldn't, write a sentence. I couldn't hold information, because of the effect on my brain, because the infection went to my brain. But I've got that back. Writing a novel was cathartic. I felt very strongly and passionately about the story, thought that people needed to read about Lyme disease and its devastating effect, but also that it might not be the end. So it was a new beginning, a renaissance of a kind, and I'm very excited about the novel now because I'm sort of back in the groove. I know how to write, and that's my life, and I've got my life back. Education, for starters, is really at that level people can take precautions themselves, but in terms of the institutions, I would say minds need changing. The science is divided over Lyme disease. There are, two sort of, I don't like to say opposing, but they disagree with each other. So science is complex and oppositional, and I think patients are getting lost in the middle, in the no man's land between these two sides. So I think all the science needs to be looked at. All of the science, all of the new journals and research that goes on needs to be incorporated and understood by Public Health England, by NICE, who have just last month released their guidelines about Lyme disease. And it's a small step forward, but I think it needs to be faster. I think minds need changing. All opinions need to be taken into account. But primarily, I think it's education, pragmatically for patients. They need to be accepted and not turned away and not told. There are thousands of people who contract the disease in the UK every year, and a lot of them are dismissed, really, and they have to find their own way. And I hope the book, Anatomized, will somehow contribute to this awareness. It's sort of a warning sign. The climate's changing. There are more and more ticks carrying the infection. There will be more and more infections. They will increase, as science is proving that in America and in Europe, and now in the UK too. So I think minds definitely need changing, and we need a more sort of holistic approach to this, and scientists and the doctors need to be more coordinated. There are as far as I understand, there are no specialists in Lyme disease in the UK, and the NICE guidelines do specify that patients with complicated cases of Lyme disease should see a specialist, but it's kind of the elephant in the room, because frankly there aren't any, and so doctors will treat the symptoms but not the cause. I currently myself am on very strong anti-seizure drugs that epileptics are often given because of the pain, to slow down the messages from the brain. So I've not come out of this unscathed, and I really hope that anybody out this summer, particularly when the ticks are breeding and spreading, that they take precautions, they use insect repellent, etc. And certainly if they get a rash and feel unwell, they should see their GP, and they should mention Lyme disease. It's a growing phenomenon, and it's likely to get worse. So I think change is required.